Hello, my students. How are you? Welcome to Shikara IS Academy. We are back and we are going to start our NCRT series, NCRT Economy series, which is very vital for you when it comes to UPSC preparation and also state preparation. We have covered Standard 9, we have covered Standard 10, and now finally we are in Standard 11. And my dear students, Standard 11 and Standard 12, because one of the pillars of NCRT economy for your UPSC preparation and state PCS. Because whatever we are studying in 11 and 12 is actually the economy which is going to help you out in your mains and your interview and in your prelims, because these are the concrete concepts. Okay, these are the major concepts which we have taken from standard 10, 9, although we have covered standard 9 and 10 economy NCRT as well, but 11th and 12th standard NCRT economy becomes prime important. So pay attention so that you can excel. And this is our part 2. Please do check out our part 1, students, in which we have talked about the liberalization, privatization and globalization, part 1 of it, how India was gearing up its economy after 1991 and what kind of strategies India was taking after 1991 economic crisis. So let's get ahead. This is your educator Raini Simon. Yes, I'm your NCRT economy educator and current affairs educator here at Shikhara IS Academy. I have an experience of 2 to 3 years in teaching offline or online, offline and online in your UPSC field. So let's get ahead. What are we going to discuss now? So, first, we are going to talk about the establishment of private sector banks. Excuse me. So, how the private sector banks were now established. Previously, it was seen that RBI was acting as a regulator rather than a facilitator. Right? RBI was more of a like a strict parent to the bank rather than a friends to the bank, so that the banks can encourage. So, but what they have seen in 1991 was that RBI need to facilitate the economy. RBI need to regulate the economy to a certain extent, but need to facilitate it. So, the reform policies led to the establishment of private sector India as well as foreign banks. Yes. So after 1991, what we have seen, economic reforms, what we have seen that India started opening not only more of Indian banks, but also foreign banks. Yes, foreign banks were encouraged and foreign banks were asked to open in India. And foreign investment limits in banks were raised to around 50%. Those banks which could fulfill certain conditions have been given freedom to set up new branches without the approval of RBI. Yes, there were certain terms and conditions. If these banks are going to fulfill those terms and conditions, that they can open more branches without the approval of RBI. So this was the thing. Though banks have been given permission to generate resources from India and abroad, certain aspects have been retained with the RBI to safeguard the interest of the account holders in the nation. Yes, a lot of freedom was given by these banks to take the money and invest in domestic market or in foreign market. Yes, but certain rules and regulations were still in the hands of RBI, and still also we see RBI has it, so that the bank holders, the account holders money is not vanished. Okay. And then came your foreign institutional investors, FII. Yes, a big name in the Indian market, which have actually contributed to the increase in economy and increase in the final condition of Indians. How they have done it? So they were like merchants and mutual funds and pensions. So your final institutional investors at that times were merchants, bankers, mutual funds and pension funds. These were actually your foreign institutional investment. They used to invest in this targeted zone. What were the targeted zone? They were merchant bankers, mutual funds, pension funds. They used to target this section of the Indian economy. Now, if we talk about the tax reform, students, what kind of tax reforms was happening? So, when we talk about taxes, then they are direct taxes and indirect taxes. Direct taxes are levied on the individual directly. Okay, suppose there is a person called Suresh. Okay, there is a person called Suresh and he is working somewhere, and then government has to give direct taxes on him. Then this he will be charges certain amount, like for example 2% of his income. The income tax will be his direct tax what he is paying to the government. So direct tax consists of income of individual as well as profit of business enterprises. So when it comes to individual का income कितना हो रहा है, how much the income that is generated by the individual, and when it comes to an enterprises, an organization as a whole, so how much profit they are having. So on top of that, they will be paying direct tax to whom? To the government. Then since 1991, there has been continuous reduction in the taxes on individual income, as it was felt that high rates of income tax was an important reason for tax evasion. So at that time, what government was thinking? Government was thinking that these individuals, okay, they are earning money, but they are not paying tax. Okay, 1991 maybe there were cases of a lot of cases of tax evasion. Yes, in 1991 tax evasion was another a reality, a sad reality. So what government was thinking that these people are not giving us tax, so what we should do, we should reduce the taxation amount, we should reduce how much we are taxing them. It is not widely accepted that moderate rate of income tax can actually help in saving also and help for government also. The rate of corporate tax, which was very high earlier, being gradually reduced. So the tax on the individual, which the government used to take direct tax, and the tax on the corporate sector, which the government is taking, they have reduced both the taxes. Okay, because government wanted that people should not evade tax. Tax evasion should not happen. So for that, they have continuously reduced the tax burden on individual and also on corporate sector. Foreign exchange reforms. What kind of reforms? What kind of reforms are we talking about? So in 1991, an immediate measure to resolve the balance of payment crisis, the rupees was devalued against foreign currencies. So what is devaluation of money? What is devaluation of money? This is a very important topic. Very important term, because in prelims you will be asked about what is devaluation of money. Not directly but indirectly they are going to ask this. And mains also there can be questions on it. So what is devaluation of money? Suppose the value of Indian rupees is, suppose Indian rupees is 1 rupees equals to $80. Okay. Currently we are 1 rupees. Suppose we are not exactly, we are actually 84 rupees. Okay, 1 rupees. Sorry, $1. $1 equals to 84 rupees currently. Okay, so currently we see $1 equals to 84 rupees. So if we want to devalue the amount, so we can decrease this. So again, then $1 will be equal to more than 84. That is 90 rupees, 95 rupees. So हम लोग अपने market में the value of Indian currency in the market is crashed. It's deteriorated. It's decreased. And who has done it? It is done by the government of the company. Why the government of that particular country is doing so? So once you devalue the value of your currency, you can give more exports. Your exports becomes very competitive. Yes, how your exports becomes very competitive? Now people, by spending less currency, can buy your products. So when they can buy your products, it's cheaper currency. They will buy more of your products because they are cheaper for you. So this is how we are going to grip the market of international fora. International platforms, we are going to grip the market. So when we devalue the money, the currency, we are more export competitive. And China also every now and then devalues its currency. So this is the practice which is done by the countries every now and then. It is not something which is bad. Okay, so at that time also in 1991 also we have devalued our currency against foreign currency. This led to an increase of foreign exchanges. Foreign exchanges also increased and also set to tune of free determination of rupee value in the foreign exchange matter from government control. So previously what was happening, government was deciding, government was having a lot of control on the value of money. Now when they have devalued, they have they have kept it on the market. Now the market will decide what should be the value of rupees. Okay, now the market will decide what will be the value of rupees. So in this way, it is more about market than the control of government. Now, more than often, market defines exchange rates based on demand and supply. And now market is going to define. Market is going to define what is the exchange rate. At what $1, if we are having $1, it means how much rupees. Okay, how much the market is going to decide this. Market will tell you अगर आपको ये साबुन खरीदना है, if you want to buy this soap, then how many dollars you have to pay for this. So it depends on the supply and demand curve. Yes, the supply and demand curve के कारण you are getting the valuation. So yes, the foreign exchange reforms in which we have devalued our currency. So our currency, our respected currency was devalued. And why do we devalue the currency? So that we are more export competitive and more investment come to our country. Now let's talk about trade and investment. What we have done when it comes to trade and investment, and what was the condition of India when it comes to trade and investment in 1991. So, liberalization of trade and investment regime was initiated to increase international competition of industrial production. So, our industries, the industry which were already there during 1991, need to have a complete competitive field, and for that we have liberalized our economy. We have liberalized our economy, saying that now we are ready for the competition, aim to promote the efficiency of local industry and the adoption of modern technology. Once we have liberalized our economy, we have opened our economy, then different companies will come and establish their company in in our country. And when they will establish their industries in our country, we will get to know modern technology. We will get to adopt very efficient means of production, which the rest of the countries are doing, right? इफ बाहर से कंपनीज आती हैं हमारे यहाँ, हमारे पास नई टेक्नोलॉजीज भी आएंगी, नई टेक्नोलॉजीज आएंगी तो वी विल बी बिकमिंग मोर एफिशिएंट. And when we will become more efficient, then at that time we will grow. So, in order to protect domestic industries, India was following regime of quantitative restriction of imports. So, even though when we were importing, ठीक है, even when we were importing to India, at that time we were having some quantitative restriction on imports. What is this quantitative? Suppose if I want one pen, I'm going to import only one pen. We are not going to import two pen, three pen, बहुत सारे pen we are not going to import. We are going to import only one pen. And उस one pen में क्या है? Because one pen is needed. Suppose I want 40 pen, I will import only 40 pen. So import restrictions where quantitative restrictions were still there on the imports, that जितना मन है उतना मत import कर लो, जितनी की जरूरत है उतनी ही import होगी. This was done by the government. There was still quantitative restrictions on the imports and tariffs, and this encouraged tight control over imports by keeping tariffs high. And even when you are buying this pen, when you're buying this pen from foreign countries, we are putting a lot of tariff on this pen. ओके बहुत ज्यादा मान लो इस पेन की कॉस्ट है ₹5. ओके द कॉस्ट ऑफ दिस पेन इज ₹5, बट वी आर पुटिंग अनदर ₹2 ऑफ टेरिफ ऑन दिस टैक्सेशन. सो अभी कितनी हो जाएगी? ₹7. सो इंडिया में दिस पेन विल बी सोल्ड एट ₹7, विच अगेन एट दैट टाइम इन 1991 was a huge amount, and people will be discouraged to buy this from outer countries. So this was the aim of the government. Government wanted to stop you from buying products from foreign countries. Okay, but अब reforms आने की बारी है. Now we have the reforms in trade and investment policy. But what was the reform saying? We have opened our market, import, export, सारा कुछ कर रहे हैं हम लोग. We are exporting also, we are importing also. But how are we doing that? So dismantling of quantitative restrictions on imports and exports of tariff rates. So जो भी हम लोग restrictions लगाए थे ना, quantitative restrictions और import and not only on imports, my dear students. Suppose you are importing this pen, okay, and you are exporting this highlighter to US or UK or different countries. So there was restriction in the quantity of both the things. Okay, there was restriction. आप सिर्फ 40 ही हाइलाइटर बेच सकते हो, एक्सपोर्ट कर सकते हो, आप सिर्फ 40 पेन ही ले सकते हो इंडिया में, 40 पेन लो, 30 हाइलाइटर दो. देर वॉज लाइक क्वांटिटेटिव का रिस्ट्रिक्शन, क्वांटिटी रिस्ट्रिक्टेड था. But now they have removed this. Okay, they started this reform in 1991 and they have removed this restriction. ठीक है, अब जैसे डिमांड सप्लाई है, the market will decide how many pens India need and how many highlighter the world needs, which we want to send it to the outer world. Okay, understood? So import licensing was abolished except in case of hazardous and eco-friendly environmental sensitive industries. So things which you are buying, okay, generally you needed license for that, and that license, import licensing, was abolished. Okay, what kind of products you are bringing, you don't need license for that. A lot of product was removed licensing, but hazardous and environmental sensitive industries, okay, hazardous industries जो हैं उनके लिए still you had to have this licensing system. Quantitative restriction on imports and was fully removed from April 2001. So 2001 में fully removed हो गया. 1991 में it started, but completely हम लोग remove कर दिए कि what amount of, what quantity of things we are going to import from foreign countries. Understood? Export duties have removed to increase the competitive position of Indian goods. Again, we were having taxation, we were having tariffs for import duties also, we were having tariffs for export also. So अब import के लिए भी tariffs कम कर दिए, reduce कर दिए, और export के लिए भी reduce कर दिए. आप आराम से अब import करो, आराम से अब export करो, क्योंकि now the market is liberalized, it's open for the global world. It's for the market to decide. The market will decide the demand and supply. Okay. Previously, who was deciding, students? Previously, it was decided by the government, and now it is decided by the market. Now, privatization. What is privatization? कुछ को भी अगर आप प्राइवेट एंटिटी को दे देते हो, प्राइवेट एंटिटी स्टार्ट्स हैंडलिंग योर स्कूल्स, योर कॉलेजेस, योर markets, that is privatization. Okay, this is very simple. Like when the authority is taken from the government to the private entity, that is the individual or group of organization, that is privatization. And in the current scenario we will see that India may, there are a lot of private institution, a lot of private schools going on, right? You and me, I have studied in a private institution. And what about you? You can tell me in your comments, in the comments below, like what is the difference between private schools and government schools? I know government schools are top notch. They are producing top notch students, ranks, be it your IIT, NIT, be it your medical services. Okay, but still, private sector is taking a lot of money. But why they are taking so much of money? So, if you have the answers to it, please comment in the comment section below. Okay. So, the privatization was then shedding of the ownership and management from the government owned enterprises. So whatever government owned enterprises were there, your PSUs were there, right? Public sector undertakings were there, right? So they were धीरे धीरे करके slightly they were transferring it to the private sector. क्योंकि we were not having the profit, students. You can understand the scenario. We were not actually having the profit. So why the government should keep it? Why the government should keep it with itself? It should transfer to the private sector so that profit should start coming. Okay, and by withdrawal of the government has taken the ownership from a lot of entities and they have given it to the private sector. And then they have used this method called disinvestment. So PSUs, the government has started disinvesting in the PSUs. What is disinvestment? Suppose I am government, okay? This is government, this is private entity. Government is having PSU, okay? PSU, I am like, and what you can say? Many industry like BSNL, okay? I am BSNL, and government is taking BSNL. Government is taking profit from BSNL, and now BSNL is not giving that much of profit to government. So what government will do? Previously, government was having 100% shares with me. Now, government will take 50% share, and 50% share government will give to the private entity. Okay, and this way, government does the disinvestment. Whatever investment government was having on the BSNL, on the PSU sector, government is reducing it and giving the investment to the PSU. That is called disinvestment. Previously, whatever 100% investment was there, now 50% is there, 40% is there. Depending on that, but the majority of the investment will be of government. Okay, be it 60%, 70%, 50%. So, to improve the financial discipline and facility and modernization, government started this investment, and also they have seen that a lot of FDI started coming, foreign direct investment started coming. So now in 1996, government came up in order to improve efficiency, infuse professionalism, enable them to compete with effective liberal global environment. The government chose 9 PSUs and declared them Navratnas. Okay, so in 1996, government came with this initiative of Navratna. Navratna matlab 9 ratn, 9 ratn. They are top notch. They are top notch PSU sectors of India, and they are ready for the competition in the market. They are your ONGC, Indian Oil, BHEL, SAIL, HP, GAIL, REC, all these companies, NTPC, all these companies were your actual Navaratnas, which the government created in 1996, my dear students. And in order to improve efficiency, the government has done it. Okay, give greater marginal optional operational autonomy. So these Navratnas were given more autonomy by the government. They have more freedom. They have more freedom to work by themselves. Okay, and when they have more freedom, they can do better, right? Then we have something called Mini Ratna also, and almost 97 other profit making PSU sector government has declared them as Mini Ratna. So there was Maharatna, Navratna, and Mini Ratna. So these Maharatna were greater than your Navratna, that is top 9. And then you have Indian Oil was one of the Maharatna, Navratna MTNL will come, and Mini Ratna you have other public sector companies. So you got the concept. In 1996, after the reform of 1991, government came with Maharatna, Navratna, Mini Ratnas to define the public sector according to their capabilities. The most efficient was Maharatna, then your Navratna, and then your Mini Ratna. Now let's talk about globalization. We have already studied about globalization several times in our past economy NCRT videos, that is a standard 9 and standard 10, but again we will go through policies of liberalization. So globalization is the outcome which we get after liberalizing our economy and privatizing our economy. See, once we open up our economy, ठीक है, we can export our goods, we can import our goods, people can go from one place to another, people can come, FDI inflow, yes, foreign direct investment, for FII, financial institutional investors, these all things started happening once we opened our economy, liberalized and privatized, and thus the outcome was what? Globalization. Okay, this was happening in India, and globalization helped people to gain a lot of technology, gain a lot of efficient way of producing and manufacturing things. Okay, because we got a lot of insights from the foreign countries. Now, what is outsourcing? Outsourcing is nothing but, suppose there is a country called US, okay, and we have Indians. In India, we have a lot of trained people, but US does not have that. So what US will do? US will outsource people from India. Generally, we are seeing that in IT sector, a lot of Indians are spread all over the world, be it your US, UK, Australia, Japan, everywhere the foreign countries are outsourcing. Okay, we are sending our people to work there in the IT sector, and in India is actually booming in IT sector, and we should be proud of that fact. An outsourcing company hires regular service from external sources which are previously provided internally within the country, like your legal activities, computer services, advertisement, security. So previously these countries were not taking people from India, but now Once our economy is open, once our market is open, they came to know that no, Indians are very brilliant. Indians are very brilliant when it comes to engineering, when it comes to IT sector. They are actually skilled. Okay, they are actually skilled engineers. They're actually skilled with craftsmanship. So we should hire, we should take work from them. Okay, so this was your outsourcing, and this majorly happened in the information technology sector, that is your IT sector. Now let's talk about World Trade Organization. We have already studied about World Trade Organization in our previous NCRTs. Let's just revise it. So WTO was founded in 1995. So whosoever will ask you when WTO found, it was found in 1995. Remember this, because again this organization is important for you. 1919 में फॉर्म हुआ, but previously WTO was called as General Agreement on Trade and Tariff, that is in 1948. So 1948 में ही the birth of WTO was there, but what was its name? Its name was GATT, which means General Agreement on Trade and Tariff. GATT. Okay, and this get equal opportunity to all the countries in the international market for trading purpose. So in 1948, when GATT started, that is a general agreement on trade and traffic started, they give equal opportunity to all the country to trade, and be it your goods and services. But there's one difference. When GATT happened, it happened only for goods. But when WTO came, it started happening for goods and services as well. So India was again very, very, very strong in your services sector. Yes, India was very strong in the service sector and facilitate international trade, remove tariffs as well as not tariffs, very providing greater markets to all the member countries. So when WTO came, it started having equal opportunity for all the companies, all the countries to have trade in goods and in services. Goods and services both started when? In 1995 under WTO. Now, growth and employment also started happening because we have opened our market, and GDP growth also started happening. What is GDP? The amount of consumptions we are having, the amount of products we are producing in defined area in our country, India, in 1 year, in a particular year. That is your GDP. Okay. Now, reforms in agriculture we talk about. Reforms have not been able to benefit agriculture. So, in 1991, reforms which we came up, they could not help the farmers. The farmers were not helped that much, and even the public investment in agriculture infrastructure, which includes irrigation, power, roads, market, all these things were reduced in the reform period. Yes, the public investment, the government investment in agriculture sector also decreased during the reform period of 1991. This you have to keep in mind. We have seen that we have catered to industrial sector, we have catered to liberalizing our economy, but when it comes to agriculture, we have not exactly improved it with new technology. Because of export oriented policies, strategies, and anchors shift from production for domestic market to cash crops. Again, we have started growing what? Cash crops. We started growing cash crops. And because of which, the country which was actually having the domestic market of grains, foods, vegetables, pulses, oil, started again going cash crops. Cash crops. What are the cash crops? Example is your cotton, sugarcane, all these are your cash crops. And this again put a long pressure on food grains because we were not actually growing food grains. Reforms in industry, decreasing demand of industrial products due to various reasons are cheaper imports. So if we talk about our industrial sector also, we were having a lot of imports from the other countries, like at a cheaper amount. So at a cheaper amount, when you're getting something, the industry in India was feeling very discouraged, and because of which cheaper imports replaced the demand for domestic market, and again our domestic market was struggling to compete with the external. Now disinvestment, we have seen what all disinvestment government has done. So in 1991, 1992, it was targeted to mobilize 2,500 crores through disinvestment. So at that time we wanted 2,500 crores through disinvestment, because that was the need of the students. Why we needed money? Because our economic reserves, our foreign exchange reserves have reduced like anything. We cannot buy oil, we cannot buy essential goods from the market. So we started doing disinvestment so that government get the revenue and they can be used for the welfare schemes of the people, because again the economic condition of people were not good at that time. And if we talk about fiscal policies, tax reduction in reform period not resulted in increase in tax revenue. So in reform period in 1999, 1991, the government thought that we will reduce the rate of taxation which we have taken from people. हम लोग कम कर देंगे. अगर अभी 5 रुपए टैक्स ले रहे हैं तो 2 रुपए टैक्स लेंगे. But the problem is that even though when the government reduced the taxation, they have not benefited, because this did not increase, this does not led to the increase in the revenue of the government. नहीं बढ़ा revenue government का, नहीं बढ़ा. They thought that revenue will be increased because now we have decreased the taxation which we are taking from people. No, but that did not help. People are actually still evading taxation, so that did not help. In order to attract foreign investment, tax incentives were provided to foreign investors, which further reduce the scope of rising tax revenue. This has negative impact on development and welfare expenditures. So although we wanted to attract the foreign companies and foreign investments, we tried to reduce the taxation there as well, but that has also not helped us. Okay, but the problem which happened was we started we started giving less amount of attention, less amount of financials to the welfare scheme. That's all for now, students. Hope the topic was clear. And with this, we end our NCRT Standard 11. Okay, we end our NCRT Standard 11 Chapter 3 completely. And from next video, we are going to start what? NCRT Standard 11 Chapter 4. Yes. So, till then, stay tuned with us. We will get back to you. Study well.